Comfort zone is an interesting element of what makes you, you. On one hand, you are very familiar with it. If you are like most people, you spend a majority of your time in your comfort area. After all, you're in it right now. But on the flip side, you have a strange relationship with your comfort zone. When you spend a lot of time in it, you feel bad about yourself. You wish you were able to spend more time outside of it than you actually do, right? See, I wrote the script for this video 3 times. The 2 initial versions were quite alright for my own standards, but I felt that something was lacking. Today, when I woke up, I understood what it was. I have focused on how to get outside of comfort. Thing is, the reason you don't do the uncomfortable is not that you don't know how to. You know perfectly well what you should do. But time and time again, you choose not to. Don't you wonder why is that? I realized that the problem is not how, but rather the lack of 2 other essential components. The first one is a lack of good why. People simply miss the reason to get uncomfortable. And the second aspect is lack of understanding of the consequences of staying within your comfort zone. Now, I cannot help you with finding your why. It is perhaps the most important question in your life, and one that I think you should answer on your own. So what I would like to help you with is gaining an understanding of the dynamic between your comfort zone, fears, everyday choices, and your future. But you might not be sold yet on the importance of understanding this dynamic. After all, you've gone by fine until today, so why bother, right? I hear you, so let me explain this first. Each one of us chooses the option that seems the best for us in that particular moment. Of course, it does not mean the option we choose is the best one indeed, or that in fact it is a good option at all. But in a moment, we view our choices as such, given the information we have, our experiences, yada yada, you get the point, right? So let me ask you this. If you knew that by choosing to stay in your comfort right now, you would become less happy person in the future, would you still choose comfort? No? So why don't you choose differently every day? I think the problem is the following. First, you prioritize avoiding immediate discomfort. And the second, future consequences feel uncertain. Such double bias leads us to a default choice in our society of avoiding immediate, predictable discomfort over preventing uncertain future consequences. But what if the discomfort you dread today was actually not going to be as uncomfortable as you think? And what if I told you that the outcome of remaining in your comfort zone is actually very, very predictable? With these questions in mind, let's get into it. The discomfort today is not as uncomfortable as you think. If you've made it that far into my video, then you probably got at least one area of life where you stay in your comfort zone too much. You wish to change it, but it's so damn hard, right? It seems like you cannot find a good time to tackle this change. There's always a reason why you cannot do it. You hope that one day you will be able to do what's uncomfortable today. Perhaps that day is tomorrow. But then tomorrow comes and it becomes today. And there it is. You have yet again an explanation as to why you shouldn't do it on that particular day. And so days go by, and that day when hard things become easy never comes. See, such dynamic occurs because we reject 2 truths about discomforts and fears. The first truth is that hard things become harder every time you don't deal with them. This is because the obstacle grows in your head. The change or fear you've neglected becomes inflated in your mind, and the longer this process continues, the bigger the anticipated discomfort of doing what's uncomfortable. Even seemingly manageable aspects of life can become huge obstacles. I'll give you an example. Driving a car seems like not a big deal for most people, right? Well, my wife had unpleasant experiences while learning to drive a car. The instructor was harsh and stressing her on every mistake she made. Finally, she made the license, but afterwards she did not feel like driving at all because of the experiences that she had. Years passed and she avoided driving, and with time it became bigger. The fear of driving grew in her. The task seemed beyond her limits and abilities. Perspective of sitting behind the wheel was paralyzing. You know, we talked about that many times. My wife knew all the intellectual points as to why driving is not going to be as bad as it seems to her. But emotionally, that didn't help at all. Every time she chose not to deal with her fear and succumbed to the easier option of not driving the car, she fed the fear of driving until it became a seemingly impenetrable obstacle. The second truth is that perceived fear and discomfort are much bigger than the actual one which you will experience. See, over the years I have accumulated few areas of life where I developed fear and discomfort. Just to give you a couple of examples, I had discomfort of dealing with administrative tasks like taxes and other governmental procedures. I tended to delay dealing with them, hoping they will get resolved somehow without my involvement or my need to get uncomfortable. Also, when I was a child, I almost drowned in a sea, and because of that experience, over the years I developed big fear of swimming. However, in the past few years, I started going into my fears and I started doing what I feared despite the feeling still being there. I basically stopped waiting for fear to disappear. And what I noticed, time and time again, is that when I actually do what I fear, it is significantly less uncomfortable than what I expected the experience to be. I actually cannot come up with a single experience in my life where what I feared was actually worse when done than what I anticipated. Can you? You will understand what I mean when you start dealing with your own fears and discomforts. And as you experience this liberating feeling of freeing yourself from fear, you will want more of that. And with enough repetition, dealing with your fear will become much, much easier. Nowadays, I anticipate excitement of dealing with discomforts and barriers. I know it will feel empowering and liberating once I'm done with it. But until you experience it yourself, you have two choices. You will have to trust me on that one and take a leap of faith, or approach this topic with a bit of skepticism and continue not dealing with your fears. Then, one day, you will perhaps be 60 or 70 years old and wonder, what if? To summarize this chapter, fears in your head are more uncomfortable than the experience will actually be. The longer you wait to deal with your fear, the bigger the fear becomes. Tomorrow won't be easier to do what's uncomfortable. It will actually be harder. So do your future self a favor and do it today. The outcomes are predictable. Now, let's shift our attention to the second aspect of this strange dynamic we have with comfort and fears, the future outcomes. It's ironic because when you look at other people, it is so easy to anticipate where their lives are actually heading. You see a person who eats shit and does not move their body. You know they are on their path to heart disease and diabetes. But the likelihood of such outcome is not obvious for a person in question. They live in an illusion that such problems should happen to other people, but they won't happen to them. And you know what? Sometimes they are indeed fortunate. Person gets lucky and avoids health issues despite their best efforts to develop such problems. But most of the time, that's just simply not the case. Or let's say you look at a person who dreams about starting their own project, yet they always seem to lack the time to do so, despite multiple hours every day wasted on procrastination on perhaps phone, computer, or their TV. If you suspect that they won't find time in the future for starting their dream, then you are quite likely to be right. But of course, this person again does not see this. We are all blind and naive to some extent in our own bad habits and dynamics. See, there is no certainty in such exact outcomes, but instead we have a high probability and trends that allow us to make an educated guess of predicting where our lives are actually heading. What is certain, however, is a more general trajectory in which people's lives will unfold based on their approach to their comfort zone and fears. Now let's have a look into these trajectories. Trajectory number 1. If you don't deal with your discomforts and fears, more elements of your life will become uncomfortable in the future. Over time, the fears you don't deal with will overwhelm you and make you stressed, making you uncomfortable in your own skin. You will become tense and disempowered. As a result, you won't believe in your own ability to deal with life circumstances as they arise, and thus you will become easily impacted and swayed by external circumstances. Little everyday life obstacles will be a huge problem for you. You will likely blame others for your own problems. Your spouse will become a problem, friends, family, maybe immigrants, or perhaps government. People who follow such trajectory are people stuck in time, having the same unfulfilled desires and dreams, dealing with the same problems because they never resolve them. And thus, your comfort zone will shrink and fear zone will expand. The result of this trajectory is very often unfulfilled potential, unrealized dreams, bitterness, anger, and self-pity. Now let's look at the trajectory B. The other trajectory which you can create is to deal with fears and discomforts as they arise. When you deal with what's uncomfortable, less and less areas in your life will cause unpleasant sensations. In fact, every fear you overcome stops being fear and becomes part of your comfort zone. As a result, you become an empowered person. You know you can deal with problems when they happen. You stop rejecting the reality and take responsibility for your own life. Over the years, you develop as a person. You have new problems and fears in your life than what you had in the past, not being stuck in the same spot in your life. Your comfort zone expands and fear zone shrinks. In conclusion, we have a twisted relationship with time. We have short-sighted vision, which prioritizes comfort of here and now, while not seeing long-term consequences of our everyday choices. Most of us cannot properly envision our future self and who we will be based on our actions. The reality is often quite sad. When you don't deal with your old fears, you get trapped in the past. You become stagnated, not developing as a person, as you do not progress in your life. Have you ever met a person after many years, and what you notice is that they have the same problems they had when you met last time? I've met quite a few people like that, and this picture is quite sad. Do you want your life to be like that?